Welcome to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, where we go well beyond the corporate playbook to unpack major opportunities, hidden challenges, and critical issues that senior retail leaders face every day. So let's get started right now.
Welcome back to episode number 4 of this series around 4 different perspectives and things to think about after attending NRF or any conference this year. Number 4 is going to be a doozy because we're going to talk about number 4, but I'm also going to include what we always discuss in every one of our episodes is the North Star. If you listen to any of our podcast episodes, I always talk about the North Star, and the North Star is not so much like the things to shoot for, and what we consider the North Star is like, I've just spoken to you for like 20 minutes, whatever it is. Now what? Right? You hear a lot of podcasts and they just give out information, but there's no now what. We don't do that. We want to focus in and make sure that we give you the now what, because we feel like that's important for us to do that. Number 4 is decide what you are willing to say no to this year. Decide what you are willing to say no to this year. One of our first episodes this year was I helped you talk about your word of the year, and the word of the year was specifically designed to provide guardrails to prevent you from drifting, prevent you from going in one direction to this direction, because there are going to be a lot of great ideas that come across your plate. But what is the best thing that you should be focused on or not focused on? And here is a big statement that I want to help you understand. The impact that NRF and all these conferences have on you as an individual and as a company, because it will quickly turn crazy for you after listening to so many different people on stage. And what that is that NRF and these conferences, they make it socially acceptable for you to say, we're looking at everything. Have you heard that? Have you heard that? You've probably heard it a few times on stage, right? Where someone will pose a question of like, so what are the things that you're focused in on this year? You know what? Guess what? We're looking at everything. So when you think about AI, you think about implementation, what are some of the things that are most important to you? You know what? We're looking at everything. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is it's such a safe answer. I get it. And I understand it. But, NRF and all these conferences, their goal is to expand the possibilities. They expand your possibilities, understandably so. But as a leader, once again, your number one job is to define reality. Your job as a leader requires subtraction. When you do it right, it becomes so much easier for you over time to do it. And here's why it becomes so easy for you to do it. Because when you truly understand who you are as a leader, who you are as a company, what you stand for, you don't even pay attention to certain ideas that come up, because you immediately, that's not part of who we are. That's not part of our core. That doesn't even resonate with me. Our users will kick our butts if we implement this. Our employees will hate us if we went down this road. Certain stores. And your job as a leader, subtraction becomes easier when you understand what you stand for. While the possibilities of a conference are endless and they're meant to be that way, you as a leader and as a company, you have to subtract. You have to subtract. Conferences create pressure to add layers, and chase. They do. They do. And please get me. Get me. I am and if you listen to that conference with Jamie Hancock and I, we love conferences. We love them. Because there's so many ideas, or you meet so many great people, and you develop relationships that are long term. Jamie and I, we met at a conference in New York 2 years, 3 years ago. Jamie Hancock, please check out his. I think he has his own podcast, but check out his company too. Um, Futures Commerce, and please check him out, man. He's such a good dude. We met at a conference, and we have been like really good friends ever since. So we are pro conference. Don't get me wrong with any of the things that I'm saying here. It is just the translation of from conference to reality that I am helping you deal with, and or even pre-conference, right? Before you even think about going to the next conference. If you listen to this, or if you give it to your team to listen to, right, it will give you so much really good information that when you will go there with the conference with a completely different lens, a completely different lens. What we understand and what we have to realize is that most retail strategies fail because of accumulation, right? When you are in a room and everyone is not so much sharing ideas, say you've pinpointed something that you need to go after, right? What happens, the direction becomes weightier and weightier because we get so many people adding on complexities and ideas, right? This and we call that, right, scope creep when you think about a project, right? It's the same thing, and that one initial wholesome idea turns into this monster of an idea because everybody has something to say. And as a leader, your job is to swipe away this, do that, right? Your thing is to is to create, do it like, I've never used this app before, but now when I'm talking about swiping, is it swipe left or swipe right if you want something on that Tinder app? I don't know. This is I this podcast has gone completely left. I apologize. Um, but you have to treat it that way, right? You got to swipe that stuff away, man, because everybody will have so much more that they want to add on to it, and the accumulation will ruin a really good idea. Saying yes to one direction means saying no to other things, and that is okay. As a leader, that is okay. It's okay for you to be able to do that. You have to focus on your leadership decisions. Ah, I have a podcast episode coming out around defining reality and decision making. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. You're going to definitely want to listen to that. Um, we go through the pressure of making a decision, but then also how easy it becomes over time, because when you start to understand your core operational model as a leader, as a person personally, you understand um what you don't who gets access to you, right? And whoever gets the most access to you will be influential in your direction. So sometimes you have to restrict access to you because you have certain decisions that you still need to make, and they become so much easier when you reduce the level of access to your mental thinking, to your emotional state, the relationships that you have. Oh, okay. I'm gonna let me get back on track, because I could have gone all day about that one. So once again, decide what you are willing to say no to this year. Here's the question, and then we're going to move into our North Star. Here's the question that you need to ask: what are we explicitly choosing not to pursue this year, so our priorities can actually breathe? Man, that's hard. That's a hard question. That's a hard in today's world where there are so many things vying for your dollar or the dollars of your consumer or the dollars of your buyers, your customers. Man, it is hard to prioritize things because you feel that you got I have to do everything in order to satisfy my customers. There are companies out there who aren't doing that. They've narrowed how they've focused their business. Their operational execution is very narrow, and they're winning, and that's okay. That's okay. We need more companies to be able to do that. We need more leaders who are able to say and understand what they need to say no to in order for them to become better leaders, in order for their companies to become better. Once again, the question is, what are you explicitly choosing not to pursue this year? So our priorities can actually breathe. Personalize this. What are you as a leader explicitly choosing not to pursue this year? So your priorities can actually breathe. I always think it's important to personalize things um, before we move into thinking about the team. Right? It's that old mindset of being on the airport on an airplane. The flight attendant will always say, "Put the mask on yourself first before you put it on anybody else." And I firmly believe that. Firmly believe that as a leader, that you have to be a little selfish, and it's okay to be able to do that. So let's talk about the North Star. Let's close out this fourth episode and talk about the North Star. These are things that take place if you do these four things correctly. And then if you don't do these four things correctly, I have a couple of things. So let's talk about what happens if you do everything that we talked about in the series. I won't say correctly, but you've tried to implement it. Your decisions get sharper instead of louder. I tend to ignore the loudest person in the room. I really do. And I think if you are implementing something like this, your ideas become smaller. I heard this somewhere before, and it just came to me. Just came to me. It said, the bigger the idea, the smaller you write. Man, I can't remember that. If you are listening to this and you know where that quote came from, please message me. I'm gonna try to figure it out myself. But if you hear this and you know where that quote came from off the top of your mind, but let me know. The bigger the idea, the smaller you write. Another thing that happens if you will do these or try to implement some of these things, your team will move with confidence instead of second guessing. Investments compound instead of fragment. Execution feels intentional, not reactive. If you don't try to implement these four ideas or decisions, here's what could potentially happen. These conferences will turn into noise within weeks. We just spoke about that. Literally just spoke about that. Your teams stay busy, but progress stalls. Um, I heard this term before, and I had to implement it in here. I used to do business development years ago, and so I was going back through some of my notes from like 2003 or 2004 when I was thinking about this, and uh, one of the things my boss used to talk about, he used to do these lunch and learns. He would talk about pilot purgatory, where because we were a project management company, and so many companies would have these big ideas, but they would remain in purgatory. And so, yeah, if you if you don't do any of the things that we spoke about, you will have pilot purgatory or idea purgatory, project purgatory, whatever you want to put there. And then the last part is that leaders feel pressure without momentum. Just think about that. You You came back from, a conference that cost you individually as a, company to pay for you probably about 3 grand, maybe 4 or 5 grand, depending on where you stayed, and lodged, while you're at the conference, not to, of course, including conference fees. So 4 or 5 of you went, that's 20, 25 grand. You know, the pressure that you feel when you return to actually do something as a team is there. It exists whether people say it or not. But you don't have any momentum because you didn't try to figure out the reality of your operational execution. You didn't pressure test, ideas or initiatives. You haven't been able to truly identify the core problem. So you have this pressure, but there's no momentum to help you move through it. That's what happens. I implore you to do these things. And NRF and conferences, they become leverage. They become leverage, right? They become ideas that you can leverage. Don't do these things. And NRF or the conferences this year, they become just another distraction. They become just another meetup. They become just another conversation without anything that takes place. I believe in 2025, retail lost its way a little bit. I believe the core of what retail stood for from when, I started in it, 2025, it lost its way. A lot of companies lost their way. A lot of leaders lost their way. I'm hoping that this year we are able to find our way back. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that down the line. This year can be amazing, can be game changing for you as an individual leader, for you as a founder, or for you as a big company. But you have to take the necessary steps. You have to take the necessary steps. If you don't, you're going to stay where you are. You're going to get what you get, and you can't get upset. But if you try to figure out, you try to create different ideas, move differently, respond differently, define reality for yourself and for your team, move appropriately, guess what? You just might change things for yourself and for your organization. Thank you for listening to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. I hope this episode has impacted you. Please shoot me a message. My email and all of my contact information is below. So I look forward to the next episode. Not particularly sure which one is going to be because I got a whole bunch ready for you. Get ready. This year is going to be a beast. Have a great day and God bless.